It was a quiet evening in the small town of Ridgewood, the kind of night where the streets whispered secrets to the wind. The streetlights flickered, the sky was heavy with clouds, and the distant sound of thunder rolled like a warning. Jake Turner, a single father, was driving home from his late shift at the auto repair shop. His 8-year-old daughter, Lily, had fallen asleep in the back seat, her small hands clutching the worn-out stuffed bunny her late mother had given her before she passed. Jake lived his life quietly. Ever since losing his wife to cancer 3 years ago, his world had become about one thing: raising Lily the right way. He had no family nearby, no time for himself, and no dreams left other than to keep his little girl smiling. As he turned into the old industrial road shortcut, his headlights caught something, or rather, someone, lying motionless near the alley wall. He hit the brakes hard, his heart leaping into his throat. "Stay in the car, Lily," he whispered urgently, pulling the emergency brake and stepping out into the misty night. At first, he thought it was a mannequin or maybe a drunk passerby. But as he got closer, his breath froze. It was a woman, wearing a police uniform, and she was barely breathing. Blood darkened her sleeve, and her radio lay shattered beside her. Hey, can you hear me?" Jake knelt beside her, his hands trembling. The woman's eyes fluttered open just slightly. "Suspect. Armed. Back up," she whispered hoarsely before her voice faded. Jake looked around. The alley was empty. No movement. Just silence. Too much silence. He quickly tore off his jacket, pressing it against her wound. "Stay with me. You're gonna be okay," Lily's small voice called from the car, scared and shaking. "Daddy, what's happening?" Jake forced calm into his voice. "It's okay, sweetheart. Stay inside. Lock the doors." He pulled out his phone. No signal. Of course, the old road had always been a dead zone. He had a choice: wait and hope for help, or act now. And in that moment, Jake Turner, a man who'd already lost so much, made a decision that would change everything. He lifted the officer carefully into his truck, laid her across the back seat beside Lily, and sped off toward Ridgewood Memorial Hospital. The hospital lights were harsh, sterile, and blinding as Jake burst through the doors, yelling for help. Nurses rushed to take the wounded officer, rolling her down the hallway as Jake tried to catch his breath. "She's an officer. Found her near the old industrial road. She was bleeding bad." He gasped out. One of the doctors nodded. "We'll take it from here, sir." Lily clung to his leg, frightened but brave. "Is she going to die, Daddy?" Jake knelt and hugged her tightly. "They're going to help her. You did so good, staying calm." Hours passed before anyone came out. Finally, a tired-looking nurse approached. "She's stable now. You saved her life." Jake exhaled a breath he didn't realize he'd been holding. "Can I see her?" The nurse hesitated. "She's still weak, but she asked for you." When Jake entered the room, the officer looked pale and exhausted, her left arm bandaged heavily. Her badge lay on the table beside her. "Officer Megan Carter." You're the one who found me," she said softly. "Yeah," Jake replied. "You're lucky I came down that road." She smiled faintly. "Not luck. Fate, maybe." He shook his head. "Just doing what anyone should do." But as they spoke, Jake couldn't help but notice her eyes, sharp, watchful, carrying something deeper than just pain. The next day, 2 detectives arrived at Jake's home. They questioned him about the night, where he found her, what he saw, if anyone else was there. One of them, Detective Harris, seemed uneasy. "That road is off limits for a reason, Mr. Turner. You didn't see a black van or anyone suspicious." Jake frowned. "No, just her, bleeding out." "Right," Harris said, jotting notes. "We'll be in touch." But Jake's instincts told him something was off. That evening, he received a knock at the door. It was Officer Carter herself, arm in a sling. "Sorry for showing up like this," she said. "But I needed to thank you, and maybe ask a favor." Jake let her in, surprised. She explained that she'd been undercover, investigating a human trafficking ring operating through Ridgewood's abandoned factories. The night Jake found her, she had discovered something. Someone inside the department had betrayed her. She couldn't trust anyone, and now, she needed his help. Jake was no hero, just a mechanic and a father. But when he saw her desperation, her courage, and the way Lily smiled shyly up at her, something inside him stirred. Over the next few days, Megan stayed hidden in Jake's guest room, recovering slowly. She spent her time going through notes, maps, and evidence files she had salvaged from her investigation. Jake did his best to help, providing meals, fixing her phone, and even keeping Lily unaware of how serious things really were. But one evening, as Jake walked outside to put out the trash, he noticed something strange, tire tracks on the dirt road that weren't there before. And when he looked toward the woods, he saw headlights flicker, then vanish. He rushed inside. "Megan, someone's out there." Her face went pale. "They found me." Without hesitation, Jake grabbed his old hunting rifle from the cabinet, a relic from his father, unused for years. "I'm calling the sheriff," he said. "No," she snapped. "I told you. Someone in the department is involved. They'll trace the call." Lily, now awake and frightened, whispered, "Daddy, what's happening?" Jake knelt beside her. "It's okay, Pumpkin. Go to your room and stay there with Buddy," he said, nodding to their German shepherd. Megan took a deep breath. They're coming to finish what they started. The next few minutes were chaos. The roar of an engine, the screech of tires, then the sound of shattering glass as bullets tore through the living room window. Jake ducked behind the couch, returning fire blindly toward the darkness outside. Megan crawled to grab her sidearm, still weak but focused. For several tense minutes, the firefight raged, then silence. When the police finally arrived, responding to the neighbors' frantic calls, the attackers were gone, vanished into the night. But they left behind a message, carved into the wood of Jake's porch. Greater than, "Stay out of this, Turner." The next morning, Megan sat at the kitchen table, bruised but determined. "They won't stop now. We have to end this." Jake looked at her, then at Lily's bedroom door. "You're asking me to risk everything. My daughter's all I have left." "I know," she said softly. "But if we don't stop them, more families will suffer. More kids will be taken. I can't do this alone." Jake closed his eyes, wrestling with fear and duty. When he opened them, his voice was steady. "Then we'll do it together." For the first time in years, Jake Turner wasn't just surviving. He was fighting for something bigger than himself. With Jake's help, Megan traced the corruption back to where it started, Ridgewood's own police command. They discovered that the chief of police, Harold Denton, had been secretly protecting traffickers in exchange for money and power. The warehouse near the industrial road, the same place where Jake had found her, was being used to move victims in and out under the guise of confiscated evidence. One stormy night, they set out to expose the operation. Jake called in a favor from a friend who worked in the local news station, sending them all the evidence Megan had gathered. As they approached the warehouse, Jake felt a chill run through him. "You sure about this?" Megan nodded. "I've come too far to turn back now." They slipped through the shadows, using the storm's thunder to mask their movements. Inside, they found what they feared: cages, documents, and terrified victims awaiting transport. But before they could call for help, the chief himself stepped from the shadows, gun in hand. "I should have known you wouldn't stay down, Carter," he sneered. "And you, Turner, you should have kept driving that night." Jake stood his ground, his pulse pounding. "You call yourself a protector, but you're nothing but a coward." Denton raised his weapon, but before he could fire, Buddy, Jake's loyal German shepherd, lunged from the darkness, knocking him off balance. The gunshot rang out, echoing through the warehouse, followed by chaos. Megan grabbed the weapon and aimed steadily. "It's over, Chief." Within minutes, sirens filled the air. This time, real backup had arrived. The state police, tipped off by the news team that had gone live with the story. The ring was dismantled, the victims were rescued, and the chief, once hailed as Ridgewood's hero, was exposed for the criminal he truly was. In the days that followed, the entire town buzzed with disbelief. News outlets covered the story nationwide. Greater than, single father helps expose police corruption ring. Jake tried to stay humble, refusing interviews. "I just did what anyone would do," he told them. But Megan knew better. On the day she was discharged from the hospital for the final time, she stood in Jake's front yard beside Lily and Buddy. "You saved my life twice," she said softly. "Once from dying, and once from giving up." Jake smiled faintly. "Guess we're even then." You gave me back something I thought I'd lost, hope. As Lily laughed and ran with Buddy across the yard, Megan looked at Jake and said, "You ever think maybe fate has a strange way of bringing broken people together to heal?" Jake nodded. "Yeah, I do now." The camera of life panned out. A quiet house, a father, a daughter, a brave woman, and a loyal dog, all standing against the odds.